Hello and welcome. You're watching This Is Exclusive with me, Shaan. Ladies and gentlemen, we once again put the spotlight on what's really happening in Bangladesh. Over 200 deaths that have already taken place. One particular community has been targeted, but some in Bangladesh are saying that this is fear-mongering. Here in India too, there is this entire intellectual lobby which has gone completely silent on this entire matter. But now, you've had several prominent authors, historians, academicians who have now come together asking for some accountability. Will Mohammad Yunus's government take some accountability as to what's really happening in Bangladesh? Over 300 people have already died before 5th of August. After 5th of August, over 200 deaths that have taken place. Total number 238, and this number continues to grow. Tonight on This Is Exclusive, we speak to celebrity author Amish Tripathi, who says that perhaps it is time for India to talk about return policy. All this and much more on this edition of This Is Exclusive. But up first, let's take you through the headlines we're tracking at this hour.
Presenting by Royal Global University. Northeast can't wait. Paro, kuch bano.
Hindus up in arms in Gopalganj of Bangladesh. Hindu community puts forth 8 demands before the interim government. After Mohit Khan, another Samajwadi Party leader faces charges under POCSO Act for attempting to rape minor on pretext of job. Nawab Singh Yadav arrested.
We demand a DNA test. We also demand concrete evidence before anybody is actually accused, and if there is any conspiracy involved, then those who are involved in this conspiracy should also be brought to the book.
Women Samajwadi Party spokesperson Juhi victim shames minor, asks what job was the minor looking for at night, demands narco test. Doctors roll out pan-India protest demanding justice for trainee doctor who was raped and murdered in Kolkata.
मैं बोला गुप्ता बंधु से उद्धव ठाकरे जी की मीटिंग हो गई, संजय राउत जी के घर पे होगी, उसका रीजन क्या है? इलेक्शन फंड के लिए मीटिंग हो गई क्या? उद्धव ठाकरे जी को बदनाम करने के लिए ये संजय राउत की साजिश है?
Big claim by Eknath Shinde camp as they allege that Uddhav Thackeray secretly met with notorious Gupta brothers from South Africa in New Delhi.
There is a significant risk in the Indian stock market because the institution that governs the stock market is compromised.
Adani and SEBI deny Hindenburg allegations, but Rahul Gandhi fearmongers with market crash theory. Ladies and gentlemen, do Hindu lives really matter? Why is it that the so-called intellectuals in our country are so very squeamish when it comes to Hindu lives? Why is it that they have never raised any issue about what's really happening in Bangladesh? There is also a section currently in Bangladesh who've been saying that the Indian media, Republic Media Network in particular, has been fear-mongering. Is that the case? Data shows that over 200 deaths that have taken place since Sheikh Hasina fled from the country. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had to urge the head of the interim government to protect the Hindus as well as the minorities. So why exactly have a section, a lobby, still harboring the fact that there is nothing that is happening in Bangladesh, everything is returning to normalcy, and there is no problem as far as Hindus are concerned? So much so, today you have had top academicians, historians, as well as intellectuals coming together, penning an open letter demanding that Hindus should be protected, hoping that the international community will take some cognizance of what's really happening in Bangladesh. Questions that we are asking of the Western media who've seen the lives that have been lost in Gaza, but not a single word when it comes to Hindus, innocent Hindus who've lost their life in Bangladesh. And the fact that there are this entire group that is now advocating mobocracy in India. Ladies and gentlemen, bringing to you tonight is celebrity author Amish Tripathi, who is also one of the signatories as far as that open letter is concerned. Take a look at this report. Tonight on this edition of This Is Exclusive, we have a very special guest, celebrity author Amish Tripathi joins us. Mr. Tripathi, thank you very much for joining us. Perhaps you're making a debut on This Is Exclusive, so thank you very much. Let me straight away begin by asking you a letter that has been written about the plight of Bangladeshi Hindus. A democracy has been turned upside down. It took about 5 days for the United Nations to really respond to this. Do you think this letter would be good enough to bring about some change in Bangladesh, given the fact that even the United Nations, the response that came in was from the spokesperson? That shows the kind of seriousness that is being attached to it.
Shravan, I think the thing that has to be taken very seriously is that this is not just an issue that has emerged now. I have written on the minority groups, primarily Hindus, but also Christians and Sikhs of Bangladesh and Pakistan. I've written about it many times, an article in 2019, which I mentioned in my tweet, even earlier. From independence, when India was partitioned, till now, the minority groups of Pakistan, West Pakistan and East Pakistan is now Bangladesh, have suffered heinous crimes. The minorities have been practically wiped out. Pakistani scholar Farnaz Goswami has written on it. Bangladeshi scholar of Dhaka University, Professor Barkat, has written on it. The minority groups were less than a third of the population, a significant portion of Bangladesh at their independence. Today they are close to 9%. Can you imagine the drop? In Pakistan, the minority groups, most of whom were Hindus, but also Sikhs and Christians, were maybe around 11-12%. Now they are around 3%, of which perhaps 1.5%, 2% are Hindus. If you match the drastic reduction in population proportion and multiply that by the base of the population of Pakistan and Bangladesh today, there are 60 million fewer minorities than there should have been in Pakistan and Bangladesh. In India, on the other hand, India and Nepal, the minority proportion of populations have gone up. Actually, I'm not saying India is perfect, but a minority group can have other rights only when they have the most fundamental right of all, which is the right to live. And clearly, minority groups in Pakistan and Bangladesh, as has been shown over the last 70-80 years, almost don't have the right to live. It is the greatest genocide of the last 70-80 years and is being ignored by the entire world.
This brings me to the other aspect, which many would say is extremely disheartening. Across the globe, Mr. Tripathi, you would have seen the kind of discourse that takes place when it comes to anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, but there is absolutely no discourse when it comes to the plight of Hindus, those speaking for the Hindus. And even if we are speaking, then we would essentially be labeled as fear-mongering. That's exactly what has happened. The reportage that Republic Media Network has been doing over the last few days from Bangladesh, some are now leveling the allegation that, look, we are fear-mongering.
Shravan, you're right. The amount of suffering that minority groups have suffered in Pakistan and Bangladesh has been ignored by the world. But a large part of why that's happening is frankly on us Indians. Who's stopping us from talking about it? We have ignored this for decades. The few who speak, but I would advise that we must speak of these issues in a calm manner and using data. And data shows very clearly if there are 60 million fewer minority people than there should have been in Pakistan and Bangladesh, it shows the extent of the pogrom. And it's not one particular regime, or it's the state itself for the last 70-80 years. Most of those who have suffered are backward caste and what would be called scheduled caste Hindus. For example, in Bangladesh, most of the sufferers have been Nam Shudras. You being a Bengali would be aware of this community. And in India, they are classified as scheduled caste. But there are also Christians and Sikhs who've suffered. And it's up to us Indians to speak of this issue and make the world listen. And we must put this across relentlessly, but calmly and using data. These people have to be saved. They're perhaps the most oppressed minority groups in the world today. The CAA that the Indian government had come out with was primarily to save these people.
I'll come to the CA aspect in a short while from now, Mr. Tripathi, but I want you to perhaps weigh in on this. Consider the fact that Bengali intellectuals have been completely silent on this issue. The political class, I'm not naming any political party for that matter, but the political class, you've had the Prime Minister urging the leader of the interim government in Bangladesh to protect the Hindus and other minorities. But the other divide, on the other side of the aisle, the political class here, they seem to be a little squeamish when it comes to talking about the Hindus and the plight of Hindus. If that's where we stand today, where are we really headed towards?
Shavan, what I would say is rather than pointing fingers at those who have not raised their voice, let's encourage those who do want to raise their voice and may not be raising it for whatever reasons. Even amongst Bengali intellectuals, many have raised their voice. Part of those who have not raised their voice, part of the reason could be bias, and that does exist, yes. Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism are considered to be the last of the surviving ancient ways, what are called idol worshippers. And there is certainly a bias against such people. It has been around for 2000 years now. But there are many who haven't raised their voice simply because of ignorance. They may not know what is happening. So it's up to us to raise these issues repeatedly and get those who have not raised their voice simply because they don't know. We need to tell them this is what is happening. It's not just one incident of a house being burnt or two people being killed. It's not that. It is actually a pogrom that has been happening for 70, 80 years. The data is clearly there. And this is data brought out by Pakistani scholars, by Bangladeshi scholars, built on their census data, right? 60 million, I repeat that number again, 60 million fewer minorities than there should have been. It's a shocking number.
I find your entire approach, Mr. Tripathi, extremely constructive, and hence I want to ask you this question. For those who say that why should we really worry about what's really happening about minorities in Pakistan and Bangladesh, what would you tell them? Second, if this really continues, this trend really continues, where are we really headed towards and why it is alarming?
A few things. One, some may raise a question on the number itself, right? That it's an alarmist number. Let me tell you, this is the way that even, for example, the number of female feticide is also calculated. What is the lower proportion than there should have been? And you multiply that by the population. It's the same way. 60 million, doesn't that number shock you enough? Isn't that a reason to do something to those who say that nothing should be done? The second reason is that those who were left behind in Pakistan and Bangladesh are a result of the partition of British India. This is the responsibility of India then to take care of. Because remember, there was a Nehru-Liaquat Pact in 1950. The Honorable Prime Minister Nehru of that time and Pakistani leader Liaquat Khan had signed an agreement that India will take care of its Muslim minorities and Pakistan will take care of its non-Muslim minorities. Again, I'm not saying India is perfect, but the Muslim minority in India, their proportion of population has gone up from 9% to 15%. So India honored Prime Minister Nehru's word, but Pakistan clearly did not. honor Liaquat Khan's word. They were the ones left behind in Bangladesh and Pakistan were a result of the partition. It's our responsibility to take care of them.
Let's also focus a little bit, Mr. Tripathi, as far as the
And
solutions.
sorry, the last thing what you said, what will happen to those who are left behind?
Yeah.
You don't need to take my word for it. Professor Barkat of Dhaka University himself put in writing that at the rate at which Hindus are being wiped out in Bangladesh, there'll probably be no Hindus left there in just another 30 years. 30 years.
One final question that I want to take with you, Mr. Tripathi, is with regards to the solutions at hand. We do not have an asylum policy in place. Many would also argue that perhaps some amendments to the CAA is also required because there is a cut-off date. A humanitarian assistance policy is also something that many would really demand at this point in time, especially in situations like this. What would you suggest the way forward in terms of providing humanitarian assistance, asylum, as well as the CAA?
Javan, I think policy that may be worth considering. And because this is a leftover of the partition of India, which was the seminal event for independent India. We seem to ignore the impact of partition. Our history books teach us very little about it. Should we have a policy of a right to return for all the minority groups of Pakistan and Bangladesh? The Hindus, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, Parsis, Jains who are left behind because they are a result of the failure of the Nehru-Liaquat Pact, what they are suffering. I think perhaps the time has come to discuss such a policy, a right of return for the minority groups of Pakistan and Bangladesh.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Tripathi, for putting this into perspective. And perhaps that's an area of discussion which has been brushed under the carpet for a very long time. And this once again puts the spotlight on that. It's always a pleasure having you on Republic TV.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people have been asking that, is that really the case, that Hindus are being targeted, minorities are being targeted in Bangladesh? Let me take you through the numbers first, and then we'll also have a live report from Puran, Dhaka. Let's take you through the numbers. Since 5th of August, 238 people have been killed. Before 5th of August, it was 349. That's the total number of people who have been killed in the targeted attacks. Now, as far as Hindus are concerned, of the 238, 203 are Hindus, minorities who have been targeted since 5th of August. So those who are basically questioning that whether at all Hindus have been killed or not, these are reports that have been published in Dhaka itself. Let me also go across to our reporter on the ground. Mohammed Islam is joining us from Puran, Dhaka area. Mohammed Mazhar Islam, thank you very much for reporting for Republic TV. I want to straight away begin by asking you, you've already had the interim government head saying that measures are being taken to protect the minorities. I want to understand from you what's the current situation in Dhaka. If you can just move around a little bit and show to us what's really happening there. And secondly, also tell our viewers about the measures that have been taken so far.
Exactly. I am standing in the old Dhaka. You mentioned that. It's a very populated area in Dhaka city. And you can see, I just want to show you that is a very calm right now. Few days ago, here is a lots of clashes and lots of violations happened here. But right now, we can see the rickshaws is here and roads are very calm. And you can see the shops are open. And there is no police or you can say the security person, because police taken their reactions and they are in the police station right now, and they will be very keen to work back. And you can see that shops are open and all the customers coming without any hesitation, without any security concern right now. Though there is a concern, but they are feeling very secure right now, because some incident happened before someday before, and you already concerned and you publishing that there is some case of clash in minorities of or about a concern of security. But right now, I can say it's a very calm city and calm country. But there is some actions should be taken, and some action not taken because not taken for the people and for the country itself.
Well, just a quick question that I wanted to take with you, just 30 seconds, Mohammed Islam, in terms of some of the other areas apart from Dhaka where the attacks are still continuing. Why is it that we've constantly been seeing that some are arguing that there have been no attacks, everything has been under control? If that's the case, we wouldn't have been getting the kind of SOS calls that we're getting from Bangladesh.
It's not like that. It's many information is not correct right now. I can say you know that, and when something like big event happen in the city or in the country all over the world, some cases is not true. In Dhaka city, I have faced some big clashes. I have seen closely, but political concerns, student movements are really right. But there is something that is special that is not true. And you already said that there is some clashes. I already mentioned that, but after a big change, there's something happened in the case of this event. You know, it's not for the case of Bangladesh. It's always happened, but some are true. And I think this government that ruling right now, it will. We all have faith, and people have faith that they can get some good treatment, because last 15 years or before that is not something that not work well for the people. There is huge corruption. There is allegation of some big corruption or something. You can see our development process. So people are trusting this new government, and I think people's trust to be paid off. And let's see, because it's really very early to say what would go on. But I think the people are really happy right now, and they will question after one and a half month later.
Well, thank you very much, Mohammed Islam, for getting us that report from Dhaka. That's all that we could pack in this edition of This Is Exclusive. In fact, this is also an issue that has been taken up by Editor-in-Chief Arnab Goswami. Remember, over the last several days, we've been raising our voice about those who have been constantly being targeted. Once again, time for everyone to speak up. That's all that we could pack in this edition of This Is Exclusive. We'll be back tomorrow at the same time with more news.